Good morning. Oh, excuse me. Okay, well, we'll just wait for a few people to show up, and then we'll jump right on into it. Good morning. Just wait for a few more people to join the stream, then we'll jump into it. Oh, here we go. A few more people are here now. That's good. Shouldn't be yawning so much. I slept very well last night. I guess that's just how Mondays go sometimes. Just get really tired. Oopsies. Okay, so what we're going to do today is go over this curriculum review document. I did post this on Google Classroom, so you do have access to this. But I'd like to just go over the structure of it and talk about some of the examples on here, so like some of the questions and stuff like that. I would also like to talk a little bit about your project, which is coming up. Just to give you some ideas about it, maybe we can talk about how this document could help you, and that kind of thing. We'll talk about, oh my gosh, excuse me. We'll talk about the topic map, etc. Yeah, so it's gonna be good. Okay, I guess we can get started now. It's only been 3 minutes, but yeah, we'll get to it. And if anyone needs to watch from the beginning, they can always just rewind. Okay, so this is the Grade 10 Advanced Intro to Applied and Pre-Calculus Curriculum Review document. So this differs a little bit from the non-advanced, just the general program. Mostly just in terms of the content on here. So yeah, it kind of just goes over the general learning outcomes from our program. Now, keep in mind we have a slightly different curriculum than the general grade 10 program. The main difference is that we have a lot of grade 11 outcomes. In fact, if you look at the document that I made for this class and you look at the document that I made for the grade 11 general program, then you'll notice that there are a lot of similarities between these two documents. So I am going to outline each of the topics. I'll talk about a little bit about what the skills you need for each of those topics, and then I give you a few example questions. The questions are in different levels: level 1, level 2, level 3. And I think I may have been over this already before, but just in case I haven't, yeah, level 1 is just kind of your basic questions. So, do you know your definitions? Are you able to make some calculations? Can you create graphs and things like that? Can you do some basic solving? Level 2 is just an application of those definitions. So are you able to apply the definitions that you know, explaining some things, identifying some errors. So if you saw someone else's work, could you see where they went wrong, or possibly your own work? And then, of course, more complex solving. And then level 3, oh my gosh, need more coffee. Is to explain some processes. So can you not only just do a process, but can you explain what's going on? Are you able to make connections from different topics? So this would be similar to kind of like our topic map or our project, right? And then finally, problem solving. Problem solving is the big one. So just a quick little note: it's recommended but not required to attempt all of these questions. So these level 1, level 2, level 3 questions. I think it's a great idea to do that over the summer, especially kind of near the end of August or around then. It's possible that your teacher next year may use this document as a guide if they wanted to do any sort of recovery learning, sort of diagnostic assessment. Then they may refer to this document for questions, right? So it might be a good idea to sort of brush up on some of these topics. I know that we've gone into all of these topics in great detail. Well, oh, excuse me, I'm really sorry for yawning so much. It's a little bit rude. I know that some topics we went into detail more than others. Like some we kind of just skimmed the surface. Things like trigonometry, we kind of just touched the tip of the iceberg. But other topics like quadratics, I think we were very thorough with our investigation of quadratics. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. So yeah, this is the first sort of category, is the linear, quadratic, and polynomial relations. So the skills that I'm hoping you're able to do are to analyze visual patterns that represent linear and quadratic relationships. So visual patterns are kind of like where you have those different shapes and those dots, and they sort of grow. That's the thing that we did right at the very beginning of the year. I'm hoping you can factor quadratic expressions, so just factoring, using the quadratic formula, explain why some quadratic equations have no solution, recognize and factor a difference of squares, recognize and factor a perfect square polynomial. I'd like you to be able to graph quadratic functions in standard form and vertex form. I'd like you to complete the square to obtain the vertex and stretch of a quadratic function. And finally, to identify the roots of a polynomial function of degree less than or equal to 5. So this is kind of what we ended off with at the end of the year. Okay, so yeah, a level 1 type question would just be to solve this equation, right? It's a quadratic equation. You may have to rearrange some of the terms a little bit. Writing this function in vertex form, kind of just straightforward calculations. Like, can you do these things? Level 2 is, maybe some word problems. This one has an error in it. So are you able to explain where the student went wrong? Here's where you might apply a definition, right? So tell me, how is the discriminant, how does that play a role in the number of solutions in a quadratic equation? Okay, and then identifying the end behavior. So this is kind of like more of a challenging type of problem. Level 3, this one's a little more difficult. So for which values of k does this equation have this many solutions? So you might want to think about the discriminant or something like that. So the next step is, so I give you the roots of the equation, and you tell me how can you use these roots to determine the axis of symmetry. think that's a really good question. Give an example of a polynomial of degree 5 that has exactly 4 roots. So that is, that's another good question there. So there's a polynomial degree 5 with 4 roots. How's that possible? Okay, next up we have systems of equations and inequalities. So you should be able to find the intersection or intersections, if they exist, in the graph of 2 functions. So I could give you 2 functions. You may have to graph them and find the intersections. Use algebraic methods such as elimination and substitution to solve systems of equations. Shade a region of the plane represented by several inequalities. So I think that last one was, all of these were questions that we did on the last assignment. So level 1 would be kind of like, if in a system that consists of 1 quadratic and 1 linear, what is the maximum number of solutions? What is the minimum number of solutions, right? A kind of a level 2 type problem is to give an example of a system of equations with 1 linear, 1 quadratic that has exactly 1 solution. So you have to create your own, right? Level 3 would be sort of explain why some systems of equations have no solution. So that you really have to understand your stuff there. Another one here, this is kind of a kinematics question. So 2 players are throwing basketballs back and forth, blah, 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 blah. I think this is a great question. Okay, radical expressions and equations. Now, you might notice there's a little asterisk here. If you scroll down a little bit, I put a disclaimer. This is actually not an outcome on the Grade 10 Advanced curriculum. As such, is not a prerequisite for student success in Grade 11 Advanced Pre-Calculus or any other course you may take next year. The topic radical expressions and equations is on this document to provide an opportunity to reflect on the learning outcomes achieved this year. So what I mean by that is I taught this to you in a lot of ways kind of by accident. When I was reading the Grade 10 Advanced curriculum, I accidentally scrolled down too far and was reading the Grade 11 Advanced curriculum. You have to remember that our advanced curriculum is not universal, so it is unique to Grant Park. So I was learning it as we went, and hello, and so I accidentally taught you this stuff, but I think it's totally fine. The topics here would be to simplify radical expressions, to rewrite radical expressions into entire radicals, to rationalize a denominator, to solve radical equations, and to perform operations on radical expressions. So just being able to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. These are, I think that these are really fun questions, and I think that our understanding of radicals really helped our understanding of quadratics, especially when it came to things like the quadratic formula, or even when it comes to looking at like polynomials, because it kind of got us to think a lot about what happens when you take the square root of a negative and things like that. Let's go over just a couple of the questions. So these are things that you're most likely able to answer. So identify all of these terms, right? Index, radicand, exponent in this expression. Thinking about the conjugate, right? So what is the conjugate here of this expression? So convert this radical expression into one that uses a rational exponent, right? The 7th root of 19 cubed, right? Etc., etc. So these are kind of just basic calculation questions. These ones are a little more challenging. So, solve this radical equation. So we've seen solving radical equations is not super easy. It takes a lot of work. This one's a good one. So simplify and state all the restrictions on these variables. This is actually the one that I really like. Sorry. So yeah, so this is one of those questions where like you have to solve correct a student's solution. So a student solves this equation: 2x minus 1 is equal to square root of 8 minus x, blah, blah, blah. They get the following values: x equals -1, x equals 7/4. Explain how the student got those values and why they are incorrect. So not only do you have to sort of, give a correct solution, but you also have to tell me how did they get those values? Like what did they do wrong? So this is a really good one here. Rationalize this denominator. That's kind of a more straightforward question, but it's sort of like applying a definition. And then these are kind of more challenging questions. I like the first two here especially. So explain why you cannot take the square root of a negative value, but you can take the cube root of a negative value. And then I want you to generalize the above idea using the notion of odd and even indices of the radical. Okay. And then here's another solving a question, and then here's a sort of a word problem solving dealio. So yeah, like I said, like this is not required for student success in grade 11 advanced pre-calc, or any question that you would take next year. Yeah, so next year, like you'll be learning this stuff again. So you'll have another chance to learn this. Anyway, let's go back to the final topic. I think this is the final topic. Yeah, sequences and series. So this was our first topic of the year. Probably one of the most challenging ones too. So there's really just two skills here, but they're kind of loaded. So you can see what I mean by saying, yeah, okay, so we're going to analyze arithmetic and geometric sequences and series. So that means like a lot of things all at once. And then to solve problems involving exponential functions. So yeah, those are just two topics, or two skills. But as you know, there's a lot that goes in those skills, right? So level 1 question: what's a sequence? What's a series? Right? Nothing too complicated. Just tell me what each one is. Give me an example of an arithmetic sequence, a geometric series, right? Now we start getting into some of the calculations, right? So write a formula for the nth term in this sequence, and then do the same thing over here, except now instead of giving you actual numbers, I'm giving you the first term and the common ratio. Level 2, so this is kind of more of a word problem, being able to solve some things. And, ooh, look at this. Does the infinite series converge or diverge? Look at that. Okay, then level 3. So this is kind of what I would consider like a visual pattern kind of question. So a rectangle has an area of 1 square unit. In the diagram below, each step involves shading 1/4 of a rectangle. So here, this would be step 1. We're shading this rectangle. But then I tried describing this, and it was just too complicated to describe. So I included the picture. So now we kind of shade in this quarter, or I guess now it's a 16th. And now this is, what would that, I guess that would be like a 64th, like a quarter of a 16th is, yeah, that's a 64th. So what area of the shaded region, what is the area of the shaded region after 5 steps? And then what about after an infinite number of steps? So what if you just kept on going and you left it at that? Okay, the length of an initial swing of a pendulum is 90 centimeters. Each successive swing is 70%, blah, 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 blah. That's another geometric series, so a question about that. And then here's one that sort of makes the connection between exponential functions and geometric series. So there you have it. So that's basically our entire year at a glance. So yeah, I mean, this is a pretty big document. So what should you do with this document? Well, there's a lot of things that you could do with this document. So one of the things I think that you should do is just review it. Just go over all those topics. Make sure that you understand what all of those skills are. Maybe sort of highlight some of the skills that you don't feel super confident in, right? And then maybe go back to some of the old videos or some of our old notes, or just do some of your own research and see if you can, get a better understanding of those skills. For the topic map, this is a great source for the topic map. If you're still working on the topic map, really all you have to do now is just scroll through here, look at these skills and sort of start parsing through them. You should be able to get at least as many skills as there are bullets or more. I mean, some of these bullets are kind of loaded, right? I mean, like here's one. It's like, use algebraic methods such as elimination and substitution. Well, elimination would be a topic. Substitution would be another topic, right? So yeah, there's quite a few different topics in each of these pages. So you should be able to find 10 topics without too much difficulty. And then from there you can start looking at the connections between the topics, and hopefully at this point you've found the 2 topics that you want to do your project on. I think there may be a few students who are still kind of figuring that out, but that's okay. So yeah, that's one thing that I'm hoping you can do with this document. Also, next year when you're in grade 11, your grade 11 math teacher will have access to this document, and it is likely that they will use this document kind of as a guide to inform their diagnostic sort of recovery learning assessments. So at the beginning of the year, you may remember that we had that review worksheet, and we worked on it for about a week, maybe a week and a half. And that gave me an opportunity to sort of assess the students, to see, assess you guys to see what skills you guys have, because that's really important for a teacher. So it's likely that your teacher will use this document as a guide. So I would go into the year having looked at this document thoroughly and tried a lot of these questions. I'm hoping that everyone can do the level 1 questions, like all of the level 1 questions. I'm hoping that all of you can do most of the level 2 questions, right? I'm hoping that the level 2 questions are accessible to everybody, and if you can't do it, that you at least kind of know what the question is talking about, and you can sort of say, okay, well, maybe I can't solve this question completely, but at least I know I have an idea of what I'm supposed to do. I'm just missing a few steps. And then the level 3, those are really challenging questions, and I'm hoping that everyone can do a few of those. Or at least can see, okay, well, maybe if I sat down with a close friend and we really hunkered down and we could figure it out. But I'm hoping that even without a friend, you can do at least 1 or 2 of the level 3 problems. But level 1, I really want everyone to be able to do the level 1 problems. That's why they're level 1. I'm not saying that they're easy questions. Like, a lot of these are really hard questions. Like this question right here. Like, use algebra to calculate all these solutions, or explain why there's no solution. That's not an easy question. That might take 10-15 minutes to solve, but I still want you to be able to do it. That's just a calculation question. That's all you're asked to do, is just to calculate. So I'm hoping that you can do that question. So yeah, that's this document. Now, over the next week or so, what I'd like to do is maybe just go over some of these questions, and maybe we can do kind of a review session. I'd like to talk a little bit more about your project in the coming days. So maybe Wednesday, Thursday, we can talk more about the project. I know that I've received the project already from one of you, and I've had some correspondence. Way to go! That's awesome. So far I've had 2 students sort of show me kind of part of their project so far, and I was blown away. I've had 1 student hand in their project, and it was just completely outstanding. So far, I can't even tell you how happy I am with the projects. And I hope that if you're still working on your project, like I hope you don't take that as kind of like oh no, I have to like work like extra hard now because Mr. Bennett's like expecting like these works of art. No, it's not like that. Like I'm sure that whatever you have is going to be great. I just want to just for the record say that I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far. So way to go if you've been working on your project already, if you've handed it in already. I'm blown away. I can't wait to see what everyone has. And I hope that you're having fun with it, or at least you're learning, or giving yourself the opportunity to sort of reflect on your work and say, okay, well, this topic maybe wasn't my favorite topic, but I like this topic. This topic is what I'm going to do my project on, right? And if you're still kind of struggling to find some topics or some ideas, don't hesitate to reach out. My email, I will be honest, has kind of been overwhelmed with different messages. So if I haven't responded to your email, don't hesitate to email me again. I won't take it the wrong way. I get probably about 30 emails a day from either students or other teachers or administration, that kind of thing. So it is hard for me to keep on top of all of it. So if you sent me a message and I haven't replied to it yet, just send it again. I go through my email like countless times a day. Sometimes things just get forgotten about, and it's not because it's not important. It's just because I get distracted and then other things happen. Sometimes what happens is I write out a whole email and then it's in my drafts and I never hit send. So yeah, please just send me another message if you're kind of waiting for me to reply, because I do want to reply to everyone. It's just it is hard to reply to everybody at once. So I'm gonna go. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you had a good weekend. I know I had a pretty good weekend. I was just telling my grade 9s that I was at the rally on Friday at the legislative building, and we marched down from the legislative building down to the Human Rights Museum, and it was a very peaceful protest with very clear demands and requests for the Winnipeg Police Department and the City of Winnipeg and the Government of Manitoba. I had a really interesting time there. It really made me think about my role as a teacher and someone with authority, and thinking about the color of my skin and the effect that has on the people around me, and also just the power of my voice, and how being silent about things like racism and violence and things like that is not really okay, and I've been thinking a lot about that, and so I'm hoping that you've been thinking about these sorts of things too, and thinking about your role in this. This is something that everybody is a part of. It's not something that is just that's like an American problem, because America is so messed up, Donald Trump, blah blah blah. Like things are messed up everywhere, right? Canada, by all means, I'm very proud to be a Canadian. I think that we live in an incredible country. I can think of very few places I would rather live than Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. I'm very proud to be a Winnipegger and to be a Canadian. But that's not to say that we don't have a lot of problems. We have a lot of problems, especially with race and how our law and our system kind of how there's a disadvantage, a very clear disadvantage to people with color, and I think it's something that we need to start thinking about more often, and having conversations about. So I'm hoping that you're able to talk about this thing with your friends and your family, and to have a civil discussion, and I'm hoping that we can make some change. So this is the sort of the thing that I really wish that I could see your faces and we could have kind of a more organic discussion, because it is one of those things that is really important to talk about face to face, and so yeah, I know that I always say this, but I really do miss you guys. I wish that we were in a room together and we could just hang out and talk about these things, and that I could hear your voice, and we could have a discussion, because I know that you guys are all very intelligent people, and that you do have empathy, and that you do think about these things critically, and I really think that we would be able to have a really good discussion. And I know that it's a math class, and talking about these things isn't really part of a math class, but I mean, racism permeates throughout everything in the world, right? So I think that, if we can't talk about it in math class, then where else can we talk about it, right? So I wish that we were together and we could have a good discussion about this. But yeah, if you want to talk about it, I don't know what happened there. Oh, we're good. If you do want to talk about it, send me a message, and yeah, I'd love to keep talking about this, because it is a very important topic that that it affects everybody, but and of course it affects some people a lot more than it affects others. So I really would be curious to hear what you guys say. Goated game, greatest of all time. I never was a Pokemon player. I've played a lot of video games. I've played a lot of sort of Nintendo games, Game Boy, that sort of thing. Like I've got 2 Game Boys here, right? But and I grew up in the 90s. But I don't know what it was, but Pokemon just never did it for me. I was more of a Zelda, Mario player than I was Pokemon. But anyway, I'm gonna go. I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. If you have any questions about the project, or if you want to talk about the rally and things that you can do as a student, I'd love to talk to you. So yeah, send me a message if you like. I gotta move my mouse back to my computer. And yeah, I'll talk to you guys on Wednesday. Be well, and take care. Bye bye.